Welcome to the Comedy Hour Live, thepowerofvoices.com. I'm Anna Marie, but you know that. I got my guest tonight, Gregory. How do you go by?
I go by Greg. I lost Greg Barrett to other people, so then I've had to use Gregory. I didn't lose it; it's actually my name. But I looked
you up, and it was amazing. Which is really coincidental. I have to tell a friend of mine. There's a Gregory with the, how do you say your last name?
Barrett, B-E-H-R-E-N-D-T, Barrett. Yeah.
Okay. And he was all about Yahweh, which that intro you hear, that intro has Yahweh.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
And that's what the other Greg Barrett is about? He
was talking about Yahweh. It's like it came up on YouTube, and there was this guy with a similar name, and he's like, Yahweh, whatever. and so I'll have to tell a friend of mine after, the sighting of the owl, which is another coincidental. Yeah. I love coincidences. Yeah. I love synchronicity.
Yeah, me too.
And such as, here I am, I've known you for a little bit and did not know exactly who you were.
Well, I mean, I think you actually know more of who I am, really, given the context of our run-ins.
Right.
That I think you know more about me than most people. Yeah, you don't know the superficial
world,
things about me. That's right. Yeah.
Where your cape is not being worn.
That's right.
That's right. We know each other. You're Clark. I'm Lois.
That's right.
You know about the superhuman strength of comedy.
That's right.
And you are one funny bastard.
Oh my God, that's so nice of you to say.
It's the truth because I am a funny bastard myself.
Yeah, you are.
But that comes with it. And I don't know if you're the same way. Let's start. How long have you been doing this?
20. Oh God, I don't like to say it out loud. 29.
29 years.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. What is this? Yeah. So it will be, I started in 89. I started in February of 89. I was 26 years old.
Do you know that was the year that I got married? I got married February 12th, 1989.
Oh my God, two amazing things happened that month. You got married and I started comedy, and both things.
Well,
how long did that? How long did the marriage last? I had
a 32-year run.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been single 2 years a minute. And
that's amazing.
There's a lot of comedy in that.
Yeah. Well, 32 years of marriage is incredible.
Yeah, it is. And like a lot of people, it's like I put a jolt electrode under their ass because they're like, what? So what happened? Like they can catch it. Like it's coming for them.
I mean, that's a long marriage just by like to live to. Like
right.
I don't think I'll go 32 years. I don't think I'll live. I won't live out 32. We're at 18 now.
We're at 18 years. Oh, that's right.
I guess we could get there. My wife and I are at 18.
Wow. And your wife also is
she's a writer. She's a writer and she's not a comedian, but she's a TV writer, and we write books together. And
which if you don't know, his one of his familiar books, which was a movie, and I promised my daughter I would tell you this because this is hilarious.
Yeah.
My daughter walked around quoting your book. He's just not that into you.
Oh, yes. That is one of the books that, yes.
And she said, I was an exception to the rule. And of course, it's hilarious because I'm like, yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of those, Cassandra. But she was so into your book.
A lot of there aren't actually. That's why they're called the exception. If there was a lot of exceptions to the rule, there would be no exception.
But right. She said to me that I need you to tell him that I was the exception, and she fell in love with first of all, she didn't listen to her mother. I said no musicians and no uniforms.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Right.
Just there.
And no musicians in uniforms.
Yeah. Right. So there you go. Never. So
no village people.
So no. She ended up with a musician, and it just. When you wrote
but don't
the
you
book,
feel like you drove her? Like, don't you feel like just by saying that you drove her there?
No.
What I say to my daughters is find a musician.
Yes.
Find a DJ, even better, a DJ. Find a baseball player. That always works out.
Police officer.
Guys are giving his whole
wonderful.
career. Yeah, just
no control issues there. But yeah, I mean that was really funny, and it was such a your book was such a mainstay with my girl at that age. It was just the connection that I'd meet the writer. Now I've talked to her about a lot of people that have been on my show, but I have to admit she was overjoyed. It was like really kind of funny.
No, that's so cool.
I couldn't wait to call her.
What's her name?
Cassandra.
Cassandra. I saw, because we've just become Facebook friends, I saw a picture of both of you younger, yes?
Yes.
I mean, you're like she's wee, right? Is
Yes.
that right? Yeah. Very cute as a very tiny child.
There is like a my grandson looks just like her. There's something to be said about both my girls look like their dads. And I always say you have a daughter. Not people say, oh, you have kids.
Too.
My attitude is like, my mother got even with me twice. Because it is the truth.
Right. My girls, fortunately, look. One of them looks like their mother. The first one, I'm not even positive. That's like I so don't see me in there. And we had a guy, a landscaper who was very handsome. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
If she starts, maintenance in the yard outside, you might have to wonder about that, right?
I always say to True, your father's very handsome, and I look forward to meeting him because you have such a lovely disposition. You didn't get it from me.
You can't be my daughter. Yeah,
No, yeah.
Back in the better days. Now, in the
But
early...
the second one looks exactly like my entire family line, so there's like, I'm like...
There's no doubt.
Yeah. But she didn't get my looks, but it's like my mom, you know what I mean? Like people in your family.
Is it the youngest that I see you with that she's laughing? It was such a great picture.
Oh, that was my little one. Yeah, the one I put up the other day. That was from 7 years ago. They're 16 and 13 now.
Oh, those ages. Whoo, I do not.
People say that.
I have one. They do. It just depends on what the experience is different. There's some people who never have.
How did
issues.
it manifest for your daughter?
My youngest was the quiet, sweet. You'd think she was an angel from heaven, and just did her own thing, and I didn't know about it. She's very
Bless her heart.
Yeah, she's just like her
Just
father. But
make
anyways,
sure. Here's the thing: if they're trying to get away with it, that means they're trying to stay alive.
True.
Right. That means they know it's wrong, and they've taken precaution to not let you find out about it, which means it can only go so far. That was me. My sister wanted you to fucking know, so she'd fall out a window. Like she wanted everyone. She would take the car out and she'd get arrested immediately. Like she couldn't. I mean, she also liked cops, but
there you go. She couldn't stay under the radar.
She couldn't stay under the radar.
I remember that saying. A friend of mine that I worked with, he's like, "Marie, you got to learn to stay under the radar." And I'm like, "Me, never happened." See, I was that person. I was like, I'd weigh it out. How much bludgeoning will actually happen, because I grew up with, my mother was heavy-fisted.
Yeah.
If you go heavy-handed, I go, no, she was heavy-fisted and would pick up things. She had 4 kids. She didn't have time to fuck around, and she worked. Yeah. She raised us kids, and when she said, don't make me get up, you knew. Am I going to weigh this out?
Yeah.
So anything that I snuck and did, if I got caught, dude, I'm telling you right now, I'd have to weigh out how long it was gonna hurt. Because she did not mess around.
Yeah, but you have tough guy genes. Like you seem. I mean, you're actually your smile is disarming, and you're very, very sweet. But I could see you being.
I was the worst. Everybody asked my mother, "Which one was it?" And they're like, "Her."
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you just seem like you. I mean, you sort of have a gravitas to you that I'm like, I wouldn't fuck with her. I mean, Yeah, I mean, I feel like you feel like you could be pretty tough if you wanted to be.
I'm big mush, but my mom was. I'll never forget. I had a boyfriend coming over. We were moving, and I don't feel good, Mom. I gotta stay home. And my mother was hungover. I don't know this, and my mother's trying to get dressed. And I remember she's putting on her pantyhose. She's bare ass in her room, and she says, "You're going to school if I gotta fucking drive you in an ambulance." So I scream at her. Because I'm a teenager, I've got hormone hell, that I'm not going. And I'm not going. And my voice gets louder. And my mother came at me, one foot in her nylons, bare ass naked. I had hair down, and she wrapped my hair around. I remember there was a lot of room going around me, slapped the crap out of me. But I stood my ground and exhausted her. So she said, I'm going to kill you later. You better stay in bed all day. And, of course, I met up with my boyfriend. I was like...
Oh, my God. That's amazing.
Kid,
That's like a scene in a movie.
Yeah, it was.
That's like a scene in a movie.
Just when we sit there and like I used to tell people when I would tell stories about my daughter, I'd say, "But my mother's very amused."
Oh my God. Did you also have a good relationship with her? Like, did you have it? Was it No,
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 we
she
were
was never
probably very much alike. I would have to
Yeah.
say when you do that. I mean, you must see traits in your kids
that were like
that you see yourself.
my oldest and I. So my oldest is 16, and I can like I just have more empathy. Like I don't feel like people go, "Oh, that's hard." Not for me. I'm not the one having the. I mean, I used to be the most hormonal person in the family until she became 16.
Yeah.
It certainly was my wife. She's a ice. She's like my wife and my littlest are just fucking. They don't cry at anything.
Right. No,
Nothing.
even
True. And
keel,
I
right?
start when the music goes. We're both crying. Both crying. But yeah, like I watch her have those, like you can actually see, it's like looking at the weather, you know, like when the hormones just, she's okay.
Yes.
And then she's just not okay. And then it'll go. And so I just feel bad for her. I feel like that's just got to be hard. You know, your body's doing all this weird stuff. And you're trying to figure out what, you know, like you got to wear a big sweater thing. And, you know, every time they put something on, the mom's like, but it's not meant to be an insult. But she's like, what do you don't like? And you're like, she didn't mean that. She's just, fuck, everyone's trying to help and everyone shouldn't help. And it's like, so I just feel like boys sort of have a lot of places where they can exhaust that. And mostly when I was a kid, they were like, just get out of the house. People just
Right.
want to do out, right?
Right.
Just go outside.
Just go out.
Nobody says that now.
No.
Everyone's
It's
like-
because you want your kids 2 feet in front of you. The world is
All
a
the
scary
time.
place.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Right?
take the edges off everything and it's all soft inside and
Right.
we don't they have
Isn't
no experiences.
There's something to be said about that. And growing up, I mean, we all talk about that, you know, the seatbelt, mom's hand,
Right.
mom smoking away in the car.
Right.
You know, you just all the things that, you know, those are the least of my worries. And I tell my friends that.
Plus, things weren't made well. There wasn't a lot of stuff to
No.
do, so you had to make shit up. And if you played with anything that wasn't a toy, it broke in your eye, or you fell on it, or you decided to ride a bicycle off a roof because you had no
Did
idea
you
that
do
that wouldn't work.
We were so we hung around. Like, did you have a corner? Did you like have a place you hung out with your friends?
Well, yeah, I mean, we all would sneak out and go down to the school. So yeah,
All right, yeah, the
we
school.
did. Yeah,
Right, we had the corner.
yeah,
And the corner was great because that was the year of Mother's Little Helper. And my friend's mother was on Valium or Xanax or one or the other. And,
Right.
And Mrs. M would be on the couch. And we'd all come in and we'd party. Everybody was getting high, smoking weed downstairs. We'd play whist. We had
Right.
our group, and she'd be like, "Hi, everybody." She was wasted. And then,
Yeah.
you know, I grew up with kids who, you know, musicians whose mom would go out. She was a hippie. And, you know, she would bring the weed back, you
Right,
know, so
right.
it was that environment.
yeah.
And I remember as a kid, we had forts, we had bonfires. We wore the idea of being out was like everything.
It's exactly what the phone is now to young kids.
Right.
It is the same thing. And when you kind of understand that, it's like I was going out windows constantly. The time I didn't spend in my house is epic. My parents had no idea because the second I was like, "Good night, guys. You know, I'm going to go back and do homework." And no, they weren't going to check. They were drinking. So they, you know what I mean? And then I would just out the window and then I'm not back till 2 or 3 in the morning,
Wow.
whatever. And you would but doing nothing, but just wanting to be with wherever the community was or wherever the cool kids were going to be, or wherever anything was going to be going on. Whereas now they're just, you know, they put each other on their phones and then True
Right.
does her homework with another friend on FaceTime and they don't even look at each other. They're just there.
Well, there's this, I mean, could you imagine, and you're being a stand-up comedian, could you imagine you're on a screen and your whole audience is actually watching you, almost like what this is.
Yeah.
But you know, I had originally when I started this, the owner of the station said to me, "We'll have comedians come in and they can do their bit." You know, I've got the screen up, and I was like, comedians need energy.
Oh my God.
Comedians need energy. There is no way you're going to get comedians to stand up, and I just want to say,
And people won't like it.
right.
They won't
They
understand
won't
why
understand,
you know,
right.
it's so funny, but like we all need to be cued unless something's really funny, really, really funny, exceptionally funny. You sometimes need a nudge from another couple of people. Like, that is funny, right? Or like there's just that, or that like that thing that we're all kind of vibing together. We're having the experience together. But to see somebody do, I've done things where you're like, you'll just say your stand up and then we're going to that sounds awful. Because that
Right.
just sounds like I don't know what I'm talking about or who I'm talking to.
Right. That also when the comedians would come in and they'd say to me, "Okay, Anna Marie, what's the format? What's the script? What are we going to talk about?" And I said, "We're just going to shoot the shit for an hour." And I've had comedians get like frozen. What do you mean? I got to talk for an hour? And I'm like, yeah, with no script, with no format. No. And then I laugh and I go, just trust me. There's nobody greater than me than shooting the shit. I was a bartender for like 20 years.
Right.
Sales.
Yeah.
I mean, everything I've ever done, we owned restaurants. That's where I grew up, has been instantly engaging people who, A, in sales, they didn't want to freaking talk to you.
Right.
I mean, nobody likes a salesperson.
Not unless they're good.
And food.
There's something very alluring about a really good salesperson.
There is. And you want to know what? I'd always, whenever we'd have a top writer, he was the cheesiest guy. And I go, they expect that. They have a formula of preconceived who you are.
Right.
And when you fit that perfectly, you've met their expectations.
Yeah. 100%.
And they would go, why would you buy from him? He's a cliche. Well, he's met their expectations. As a comedian, when you're up on that stage, because I watch some of your clips, and I'm what I watch and I'm learning, because this is, I talked to a young comedian who was actually supposed to be here tonight, but he had his wisdom teeth out. I thought yesterday was Tuesday all day. Yes,
He asked me to do it last night, and I was like, I can do it. He goes, it's on Tuesdays. And I was like, oh, well, maybe next Tuesday. Wait. Today's Monday,
right.
but I'm not going to change the week
Dude,
for you.
You've no
you can
idea.
have your week any way you want.
I had my boots on. I was heading towards the door. I told my friend, hey, make sure you listen to the show. And she's like, Anna Marie, that's tomorrow night. And I had to call. I was so mortified. I had to call the guy back and say, hey, I didn't know what day it was. Have you ever been that busy? And he said, yes. I said, well, my show's tomorrow night. He says, I'm getting my wisdom teeth out tomorrow. And I said, you're a grown-ass man. Are you kidding me? Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Right?
It's
so
late.
we get into this conversation, and,
Or you could have said, or do you want to try the excuse again? Just try another one. Let's go ahead.
It was hilarious.
Yeah.
But, I got to see a little bit of timing of the stuff that I've learned since I've been on this show is watching the presentation. And I said to him, if I was a young comedian, I would look at almost every clip I have up, because I have had the most incredible comedians spewing knowledge. You want to know how to do comedy. You want to know what's in it. You want to know what makes these guys tick. You want to know their backstory. That's what the show's about. And he's like going, oh my God, nobody's doing that. And I said, no, podcasts, they keep it about, everybody has a formula.
Yeah. I mean, processes. I mean, I like anything about process. I don't care if it's like, I am obsessed with rock documentaries. I love anything where people can tell you how they get their shit done. I don't even care I don't care if it's science. I just want to know why you get up in the morning and what makes you tick. What is it that gets you excited about it? So, and make it, and especially now, there is sort of this need to break things down and let other people in as opposed to keep people out. Stand-up, though, is so incredibly personal. It's like, what works for me may not work for you.
True.
Or like, I mean,
but
or also, like, I wouldn't recommend anyone try to do it the way I do it, because it would be, I'm like, well, I write a few notes down and then I go up and I talk, and then the next time I hope I remember it, but I don't have it to look at, and I never memorize anything. And eventually over time it becomes something, because that's the way I've always done it. That doesn't even make it right. And maybe there's places where I could have gone further if I did it different, but
you right. So you talk about that and how much they work a joke, and each comedian where they write. I'd say, where do you write? When do you write down? Do you sit? And some of them actually have like a regiment.
Yes.
And I'm like, I could never do that. I
Here's something I will say. Every person I know that's ever gotten really famous,
right, had
a notebook and went to every single thing they could do all the time. Bill Burr, Zach Galifianakis, Fred Armisen's they're always working on something. They always have an idea. Sometimes they're terrible. I mean, Chris Rock, for years would go out and be horrible for 2 weeks until it became something. Like, right. He just, eventually you just have to,
right?
yeah, and you have to work it, because if you don't, even if you have stuff, I hate when people say it's a muscle you got to keep working, but it is. There's a fluidity to it that requires the same stretching and working out that you would do if you danced. Like it really does. It isn't something you can just go like a bicycle, go do it later, like a year later.
No, I keep saying, and don't laugh at my Boston accent, but it's an art.
Right, it is an art.
Such
I love your Boston accent.
It is, and you know, one of the things that I was so beside myself. I met Kevin Hart. Now,
yeah.
in the time that I've been here in the radio business of broadcast, I kept saying, I'm interviewing comedians. I just want to meet Kevin Hart. I just want to meet Kevin Hart. I just want to meet Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
And, you know, I want to interview Kevin Hart. And so I met him. And it was like lightning and yet it was a slow motion. And he was at Naeem, I got to say it right, Naeem Lynn's 40th birthday party, which I was personally invited to, which was, from what I understand, that was a big deal because a friend of mine who's been in the industry for a long time was like, girl, you've been here 2 years and you're going to a private party being invited by one of the top comedians that's out on the road, the Plastic Cup Boys. He opens for Kevin. And I knew Kevin might show up, but I was just I felt like Alice, Dorothy, and Cinderella all at the same time. Because I have such a compassion for comedians because you guys, you know, my thing is if laughter is the best medicine, I used to say, let me be a pharmacy because I could make people laugh. Yeah. And then there's also, you know, like my other thing, my friend says, you really got to go and GoDaddy and own it. But I keep saying life, you know, support your comedians because life just wouldn't be funny without them.
Agreed.
And the knowledge that I've learned from how hard it is and from like people talking about the grind and being on the road and dealing with the bringer shows and what it's turned out to be, not when you started, you could actually make money.
Well, it came and went. Like you couldn't, and then you could, and then you couldn't again. I wouldn't, like a couple years ago when comics would ask me, like, I'd be on the road and I'd be like in, you know, like Peoria or something. And the guy would go, what would I do if I was going to, you know, I mean, even some people like would be in St. Louis, like people that were like in urban areas, but they're like, I don't know if I can go to LA, man. You know, and I'm like, look, man, at some point you just have to go there and they won't give a shit what you did or did. You can be horrible. You can think you're awesome, but you're just going to have to get in a line.
Right.
You're going to get in a line.
It's quite a line.
It's going to take a while, but it also may not. But there was sort of a like, you know, you come here, you join some improv, you make friends. That's what you find people that are in your sort of class. Doesn't matter how old you are. It's just the people that are doing what you're doing. And you sort of come together as a group. That's what happened with me and most people. But now I mean, you look at a career like Donald Glover's, like he was in a sketch group in college and all of a sudden he was writing on 30 Rock and then he was on SNL, then 30 Rock. And then he decided to release a rap album and now he does Atlanta. Like he just did
whatever
he just
came
went
next, right?
He went wherever he wanted to go. There was no, you got to do stand up for 10 years. What are you doing? You have to, like, it's all, but he made a video, you know, like there's just so many different ways now which people can get to different destinations.
Well, it's also the creativity of how creative are you? And in LA, I have to honestly say this has been like the most incredible adventure. Coming out here, I knew one person.
Wow.
And starting my whole life, I just fit what I could in my car and I came out here and my life has just it's incredible. And it's just the fascination of meeting people and those people that I admire saying, you're so talented, you're so this, you're so that. Where I grew up, it was I just couldn't fit in. I mean, like I talked too much. I was too much energy. I get told that a lot. You're way too much energy. And in LA, if you don't have that type of energy, you get left behind.
Well, that's 100% true. I think one of the other things, you know, there's always that knock on LA of like, well, people are, you know, they're superficial and you got to blah, blah. Like here's a thing. Here's a person who I can just say this if anyone wants my 2 bits. Anybody tells you that I'm not like a schmoozing guy, you know?
Right.
Become a schmoozing guy. This is a fucking business. I learned this too late. I was like, I'm just, I'm going to go on the integrity of my talent. Nobody fucking cares. And if you don't know anyone, no one will help you. And that's not a party. It's a workplace situation that looks like a party because that's what this town looks like. The office here is everywhere. It's a giant, huge warehouse, right? It's this big place where we all work. It's a giant campus and everything matters. Nothing doesn't matter. Right. Like small dinners with your friends, that's fine. Have a small group. Have some rituals that are not about show business, and then realize every fucking thing else, from the Aroma Cafe to fucking church, is business. When you see people, it's business because people make judgments. They book people that they like. They watch you. They judge you. They don't know you. So it matters, and the littlest thing can change it, and that's so.
That's really true.
To not be aware of that is to make it much harder on yourself.
The fact of that was, I met the president of, and I've said this, Grindstone Studios, Barry Booker, and Grindstone is an affiliate of Lionsgate, and he talked to me almost 2 hours. This is when about 4 months after I got here. I mean, just the fact I was able to meet this man. And again, it was somebody who tutored his son, got me that interview. And what he did was spread a lot of knowledge. And he said that likability factor is everything here, Anna Marie. If people like you, if they take to you, it'll open doors you can't imagine. And that's been the case. I mean, I think, like, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm not here to be like, the next. I'm like, I really want to help change some things about perception. And as I was saying to you, the perception that to be a comedian, all you do is be the funny guy in the room and just get up on stage and do it. No, you got to be in it, and you got to really work it. And it's the hardest, competitive. There's a billion comedians out here. Everybody's hustling. It's real easy to get lost in the herd, shall I say, if you don't stay with. Because I've talked to comedians, young comedians just coming up that were like watching everybody. And, well, he does this and I'm going to try and do that. And, the guy doing Instagram, and I'm like, do you. Just do you.
It's so hard. It's such a, having done it, like, you watch it's when new shit starts to happen, right? Like all of a sudden Dane Cook is who?
Yeah.
Who is he? And then MySpace, like it's all happening at once. And so fuck, you don't want to be an idiot. You don't want to be left behind, but you're not Dane, but you want to be sort of aware in some ways. And so you try and, I think that's the sort of scary thing is when you start trying to like, oh man, my regular thing of just doing stand-up isn't enough. I got to figure this thing out. And I think it's, it's always good to understand what the business is, but to also understand, look, Dane was Dane. That was just his, and that went its own way, and nobody else could go that way. So that path was, but social media is going to be a thing. So you got to regard it and note it and see if it's useful. If it isn't a connection, don't worry about it. There's a million other ways, and not everyone's just looking for that. But people get in this like, oh no, I got to have this. Now I got to have that. Clubs are like, well, it's how many followers do you have?
Oh yeah, that's really becoming annoying.
But it's also becoming
it's
a fallacy.
It's a fact.
It's a fact, but it's also people are wrong because it's like, well, they have a lot of followers, but half of them hate them, and they're not going to go out of the house.
Right. Well, they were not. That was the other thing. There's a new thing where I'm dealing with. I'm also from the music industry. Okay. And I'm dealing with a friend of mine who is, we were talking about the fact that you can buy followers and that they're just numbers. They're not actual followers,
get them from the Russians.
What you're saying. Right.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you gauge it? And some of the older comedians were saying that, the Instagram frenzy, well, they can do Instagram, but they can't do 5 minutes. They can't pull that up on stage. And and a lot of these comedians are like, well, you got to be able to do both.
Right, because my daughter isn't interested in seeing you on stage.
No.
And that's not and she loves comedy and she loves movies and she loves comedians and she loves like that, but she has no real drive to watch stand up. She's 16, same with her sister. Like they will watch it but they don't think about it. They don't crave it. They're not, and it has nothing to do with me, but I don't think, but it just isn't as interesting or as funny to them or as, I mean, Instagram really is sort of a thing, right?
I call it, we are now the generation of the 60-second Instagram attention span.
But in some ways, 60 seconds is as much as I should have to give you. The rest of it's an enticement.
That's right.
And if you think this is great, hopefully you'll go, I need more of this. And it's like, I'm not making more of these.
No, and
you know, there's a way to be able to like go, okay, I'll meet you there.
Yeah.
And this seems fair. It doesn't have to even be a minute, but if you'll give me a minute, and I give things a minute all the time, I find something about the matrix of Instagram, at least at this point, fair. I will look at more things. I will stop. And I just started to notice that some people do things really well in a minute, you know?
Yes, they do. And well, the beauty of that too is like, when you have, I don't know, for me is like, I work it because I truly am a fan of people and I want to comment. I want to watch what you're doing. I love seeing people progress at their craft and enlighten. There's times the day sucks. I'll go on Instagram and like, I'll pull up Boogie B and he'll be, he was roasting Vivica Fox tonight. And I get a really belly laugh out of, you know, just sitting there and it can shift a mood. And then you read people, if you're going through something, there's poets who they pour their hearts out. I'm one of them.
Yeah.
And you know, there's all different types. Food. I need food. I can find
meditation.
Food, meditation.
There's
right.
little weird things like my daughters are obsessed with watching, like, so there's you know, the people were making goop, you know, they make goo. Right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But it wasn't that she liked the sound of people's hands going in it. And so there'd be like different kinds of like, and she's like, oh, that's so satisfying. I'm like, that's such a weird, are you having a, yeah, she goes, I enjoy listening to the sound of that man or girl or
right.
whatever.
Like we're listening to running water, streams and birds chirping.
That's
she
right.
Likes that.
Right.
That's
like,
so funny.
or they'll evoke different things. You know, I mean, that's a lot of what meditation is now, where people are doing all the sound work stuff, but like, people are finding different ways to have experience whatever joy, really, mostly. But like it's that thing. Sometimes you go, stand up may become not as necessary. Like we don't like it when things start to go away or it looks like they're not. So the guy will go, well, if they can't do a minute, you're like, well, fuck,
right.
dude, nobody wants to go see an hour, maybe, or it has to be a really good hour. And there's so many hours on Netflix and stuff that maybe they're like, to a club for an hour.
Right. Well, that's the other side of it. The idea of going to a comedy club, like a lot of comedians are, you know, how do we get, you know, bringers, right? You got to put so many asses in the seat, and they don't care who can do comedy or not. You're just filling the seats. I'm like, oh, okay. There's some top comedians that'll be in the mix, but you know they've talked about it's a little treacherous because you know you could have a bunch of in the bringers that aren't really
Dwarfs.
live. You know,
you can't build any business that you build has to be built on sort of at the beginning. There has to be a little bit of exclusion. There's not room for you.
right?
This is great, and it's hard to get in, and it's private, and it's small, and you're not really invited. That's how anything, you know, and it's also curated well. You've been here before. You'll expect the same thing when you come back. You're going to pay the same amount, but it's all the comedy clubs that last usually start with guys, you know, they'll put in a few ringers, guys that are big to sort of get people to figure out where the club is. But for the most part, they'll fill it up with guys you don't have to pay a lot of money for, but they'll support that. That's why the old comedy clubs would. So they'd have you in, they'd give you $1,000 for a week. You'd be thrilled as a headliner because you didn't have an audience. But over time, people would come back and see you. And if the level of comedy in the room was good, it would just build into a good room. As soon as they start papering it, you get people who are like, I fucking hate this. Well, of course you do. You paid a fucking $1. You're like, fuck this guy. And you're like, why am I trying to convert him? This isn't politics, man. I don't need your vote.
Right.
You know, but you do feel like that. You're like, oh my God, why am I trying to win people at second show Friday night? Like Yeah, that's not, like there's a period in your career where you're okay with that. And then there's a period where you go, okay, we've done our thing. Like it just isn't, there's nothing there. There's nothing to gain at that point.
Can you walk on to a stage and literally gauge that whole vibe that's in the room as long as you've been doing it? Or is it always a surprise?
Yeah, I think I kind of have to go on stage and go, I don't know what this is. Because if I go on thinking I know I'm wrong, I'm always wrong. I'm always wrong. Like
right?
I know what to do. I mean, I have not a million, but I have a lot of different ways that I will try and go with it to try and ride it like a wave. Like if I'm like, oh, okay, they're not into it. Or, oh my God, these people are amazing. I'm gonna have to cut this in half because they're not gonna let me get any further because they like the setup, right? Like you just get a vibe, but you're never like people who you can't as if with comedy because then you're not paying attention. If you're really a good comedian, you just go, I have a vague idea of what I want to say because I've been doing this for a while. I kind of know what my bits are, but I'm open to the fact that maybe something will happen and we'll never get there.
It's the storytelling. I think that's what I love the most about comedians is their ability to tell a story. And the way that it just unfolds in front of you, like there's some comedians where it's such a like that punchline. It's
right.
It's like
right.
funny whiplash,
Well, hopefully, I mean, most really good comedians are trying to take you somewhere. They have something, they have an idea in mind that they want to get across to you, and they have different ways of getting there. But they, it's like when you're at dinner and you're like, oh, this is a fucking great story. And it's a great story. You just said it was going to be a great story. And it's funny because comics don't do that when they go on stage and go, I'm going to this is hilarious. Because people go, well, we'll see about that. But, you never panic when you're telling a story in front of friends. Like and that was what my mom was like, if you could just, because when I first went up, I tried to write jokes and I tried to have a character kind of like I was all over the place because I certainly couldn't be what's funny, right? In my head, even though people were like, you're really funny, I'd be like, yeah, but I know me, I suck. So, but I'll be something else until eventually you're like, no, you're stuck with you. But that was my mom would be like, just be like when you're at dinner. Just take control. Tell the fucking story. Take your time.
Oh, that's great advice.
Yeah, she was great. She loved it. Both my parents loved comedy, so they were both into it.
Were they from that background?
My parents grew up in San Francisco, so yeah, kind of, because when they dated and when I was little, my dad worked in television in San Francisco, but they would go to jazz clubs and comedy clubs. So they were like right before the Beatles. They would be like, they were young people who liked the Rat Pack, right? And they saw Phyllis Diller and Joan Rivers and Lenny Bruce and Cosby and Newhart, all those folks when they were young. So they had a taste for it, and they saw them all in nightclubs. So they knew what it was like to be in a small room with a performer. So they, and they went, so they've seen me a lot, and they've seen,
I have a clip of you, and you're doing a thing on getting older.
Oh yeah.
And,
I've been doing that since I was.
Do you remember the clip?
Well, I have a few bits about that. Is it the one about my chain wallet?
Yeah, and the eye cream and.
Oh yeah.
I'm waiting for my tech is gonna cue that up, and the whole thing about.
I'm so old. It's on an acetate. Everybody.
And to work that into it, I've actually met comedy writers that supposedly won, they're Academy Award winning comedy writers. And when I met the guy, I thought when he said that's what type of writer he was, I was so shell shocked. And he goes, "Why do you seem surprised?" Because he really had no personality. He really had nothing about him that would even. It really changed my perception of the gesture and the comedian, and I've learned that over the year is all the different variations of where comedy comes from, and some of it comes from some pretty dark places.
Well, when you think about it, like people go like, "Oh, you're such an extrovert." No. I am an extreme isolationist. What I like to do is I want to talk to you in a room full of people where you don't get to talk.
Yep.
Everybody likes me, and then I go home, and that's. I don't even need to stand around now.
And get paid.
That's it. But yeah, I want the control of having I want the topics, I want all of that, I want to say the thing, but it doesn't necessarily matter that I want to come out and hug everybody and hang out, you know, especially when I stopped drinking. I was like, no, I don't like people at all.
No.
I'm like, man, I didn't realize how awful people were.
Well, we're going to take a look at what you do and why. And it's a treat.
I'm going to tell you a real quick story. This just happened to me back in the States. I went to see a concert. It doesn't matter. It was Foo Fighters. As I approached the venue, the security guard goes like this. He goes,
I didn't have
hey,
a lot of talk.
Excuse me, friend.
I loved her
hey,
very
friend.
much, but she
Friend.
was kind of an
Weird use of the word
intimidating
friend.
figure.
Like no
She was
friend
one of
vibe at
those
all.
corporate working moms.
Didn't seem like a friendship was about to blossom from this encounter. Very hostile. I did not see it ending up in a coffee. He goes, excuse me, friend. I'm going to take the chain wallet and your studded belt. And I was like, why? Because of the wars and the terrorism and the upgrades to security? And he goes, nope, because you're 50. No, that's not the funny part. That's mean. And I'm 48. I use a fucking eye cream. What the fuck, bro? Listen to me. And I had this terrible thought. I was thinking to myself, I was like, can you be too old to rock? Like, can you be? Right? Well, you say that, but you're nice people and you're all full of it. Listen to me. Let's do an experiment. Be 18 in your head if you're not 18 now. Be 18 in your head, all right? Now go to a concert. You're 18, you're at a concert, you're rocking out. You're with your friends, right? You're getting loaded, the band's on, you're having a good time. All right, look around. Oh, who's that? Creepy old guy. Yeah, now you remember me. Creepy. Totally creepy. Old, rocking solo, came by himself. Just... Now I'm that guy, and I don't want to be the creepy old guy. I don't want to walk around pretending I'm looking for a son that I don't have. Steve Ed! There you go. So I came up with a solution. Something I call the Adult Rock Show. Now hear me out on this. The Adult Rock Show starts at 7. 7 o'clock show. Come on, I got a JOB. That's a job, friend. 7 o'clock show. Cost prohibitive. No young punks. No young punks. 25 and over. I think that's a good cutoff point. You don't come to my show and embarrass me. I don't go to your show and embarrass you. I don't need to be at some show with some 16-year-old all jacked up on gin and guava juice or whatever he stole from his parents' liquor cabinet. Fucking back it up, dude. This is Kashmir. Back it up. Yeah. Back it up. I'm wearing a sweater in that scenario. Get off me. Get off me. Don't make me dry clean. It flattens the buttons. I will destroy you. Young people are gross anyway with their faces and their hope. I have hope. Get out of here. 7 o'clock show, cost prohibitive. Band plays 1 hour. 1 hour. 1 hour. No opening band. I don't need to see you struggle through your career. Come back when you got hits, bro. I don't have time. I'm too old. I might die before you get good. We don't have time for this. Band plays 1 hour. No encore. Don't play hide and seek with the hits. Just play the songs we came to hear. Do the song from the soundtrack. Boom. Valet parking. Home by 9. Come on, Mad Men's on. Let's go. I have a date with a TV show in pajamas. Let's move. Tell you something, man. Getting old's a bitch. And there's some young dudes here, and I know that you're looking at me and you're like, I ain't going out like that, bro. And all I can say is, oh yes, motherfucker, you are. Listen. So listen to me tonight with your tight skin and your judgment. Getting old's a bitch. It's not like you think it's going to be. You think it's going to be. You think you got time. You do not. You don't. You know what I'm talking about. It's like one day you're a vital dude with plans and information. Boom. Next day you're an old man. You got a brand new vocabulary. New words you're using. Ointment. Ointment. Not as a joke, as a fact, because you need one. How come? Because you're sore. From what? From fucking sleeping wrong. That's a real thing. Sleeping wrong. Sleeping wrong. My dad used to say that all the time. He'd be like, I slept wrong. I'd be like, how did you just fuck that up? You lay down. How do you fuck up sleeping? God, you guys are great. Holy cow. Please welcome Steve Hughes.
So here's a fun story about that. So that was in New Zealand, and it was
wow.
so that was a night of like 20 comics or something. It was a big festival. So when I got there, nobody in New Zealand knew I had performed in Australia before, but they're not the same, but they're close. But the comics were like, this guy like wrote a book or something. Like they had no. They're like, oh, this is another one of these guys who gets to jump in the head of the line because he wrote a fucking book and now he's doing stand-up, right? But I'd been a stand-up for 15 years before Oprah, right? Like
No respect.
None. So I fucking slayed that shit. I was on a mission. I was like, they wouldn't fucking talk to me. Like it was like weird. And so I was like, fuck all y'all. And I went out there and fucking slayed because I was like, this is what I do. And I don't know if I don't know if I like a set of mine more than that one. I really.
Isn't that funny? That's the one I picked.
Yes, it is. And I was like, oh, that guy's cute.
Now you know how.
But I did think like I do remember like I had a mission. Sometimes you just go out there and you're like, oh, I'm tired and I want to go, something like that. But I was like, I have something to prove tonight. Yeah, and also I just wanted to. I get it. If someone doesn't get something and you can't tell them what you are, you have to show them.
Right.
Right. And so then afterwards, they were all super, super nice. They were like, oh, we're so sorry.
Got a taste of what it's like to be the hot chick in the room.
Ah.
Because I'm telling you, they be hating on you for nothing. And you just got to show them.
I've seen that. Yeah. I mean, I've seen it with, I see that all the time. I see it with, when there weren't that many female comics around. So when any girl would show up, I'm like, oh, you're going to have a fucking tough time. Because you're funny. And like, I remember when Sarah Silverman started. And they were like, oh, she's not funny. And I'm like, fuck, man, I am telling you this flat out. I am not attracted to her. She's cute, but she's not my thing, but she's fucking funny. She is funny. So get over that. It's not going to be the thing you can take her down with.
I mean, the
idea,
just fear.
The
idea of having, and being female, and being attractive, there are a lot of beautiful female comedians that have made it really big. And some of them talked about that, being pretty was a hindrance when they first started to be taken seriously as a comedian. We'll take it back a little bit. Not saying now, a lot of women broke that. For me, watching Joan Rivers as a young woman, Carol Burnett, Joan Rivers, even Mom's Maybelline.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I really, and timing, I mean, there were even actresses that, Katharine Hepburn, she had timing that was impeccable.
The thing I love about all stand-ups, even if I don't like their act, unless they're just horrible people, you go out there by yourself with your own ideas and fucking try. And to get anywhere takes an enormous amount of courage or just being a straight sociopath. I may be both, but so just add that to women, like even like in show business, because it was sort of not segregated, and there still are black clubs and white clubs and that kind of stuff. In the black community, at least you had a community. So what I'm saying is, but for women in all of it, it's always really hard. Really hard. So women really, like, in comedy, I had mad respect for, and I would crush out on any girl that talked. The first time I saw Ellen, I go, I know she's gay, but I just fucking love that she got up there and was that funny. It was a like a turn on in a way, like a way, like just her intellect and her bravery and how funny she was and how comfortable she was. It's just, I don't know. It's a cool thing to be able to do.
Yeah, you got to figure that, a lot of that foundation came from how she was raised. Like you said, being encouraged by your parents has a lot to do with it. Yet, there's a lot of comedians that don't have that backdrop story. I mean, that's one of the great things about sitting in this chair. And like I said, in getting my show to be recognized, because I've had comedians go, you had him on you? They were on you? They're surprised at who's been on the show.
I'm not.
Because it's really?
Why would I be?
So
why wouldn't someone want to come talk to you?
Yeah, it's basically the idea of like, I'm like, you just sit in the chair and shoot the shit with me for an hour? I mean, because like I can do that. I've held people hostage for 4 hours at times. But yeah, I have a deep respect, and I think that comes across no matter who's doing comedy. or anything in this industry, because it's in the longevity of it. Because you have to admit anything that you do repetitively becomes your job. Kind of like
Yes.
you know.
Yeah, and I've had a love-hate with it. The thing I liked about it at first was I could do it. I didn't have to really. I knew I was funny. I knew I could be funny. I never wanted to be funnier than anybody, but I knew I was funny, and I was like, why don't you just do that? Why are you trying? Like, I really wanted to be in a band, and that was not. God kept going, I have given you not a gift. Not a gift. You've struggled with every bit of playing the guitar. Like, and it shows. It is not.
It's not your thing.
I mean.
But you had to have known somewhere inside of you that you belonged on stage. You just didn't quite know how that was.
And
Isn't that true, though?
Yeah, totally. And when I was, like, when I was, like, there was a sort of a, when I was able to be funny about playing music while I was playing it and sort of aware of everything, I was like, oh my God, people think I'm, like, that's what they like about me. Like.
How did that feel?
They're like.
It's amazing, huh?
It's amazing. Yeah. It was like, I love, there's something you get from music that's different than comedy. And so there's a part of me that's like, oh, I wish I knew what that was, to be able to write a song or something. But I knew how to do this. I knew how to be funny, and I was running out of options. And my mom was like, I don't think you're really going to be an actor. You're not really trying. And I'd gotten a degree from the University of Oregon in theater, which is, don't bother with that. Fuck, I should have just I should have just burned their money in the driveway. That was a waste of everybody's time. But I went to audition for this improv group, and Margaret Cho was in the group, and they took me on. And then, like 2 weeks in, she was like, "You should do stand up." And I said, "Am I getting fired from the group?" And she said, "No, you should go. I just started doing it. You should do it. You'd be good at it." And so I
heeded that advice.
I took her advice and went and did it.
That's amazing. So, and it's true. It's simple as that. Your life changed.
Like that?
Like that. Do you still perform?
To stand up?
On the road?
Yeah. I was just in Portland a couple weekends ago.
Were you really? Do you want to tell the listeners?
The listener where I'm going to be?
Where are you going to be? What are you doing?
The other one I can remember for sure is I'm going to be the weekend of the 22nd, 23rd, I think. Whatever the early 20s are in April, I'm going to be at Acme in Minneapolis.
Are you really? Yeah. I hope it warms up out there.
Yeah.
And Instagram, Twitter. You said Twitter.
Gregory Barron at Twitter, Greg Barron, Facebook page. Instagram is Greg A. Style.
And he also has a podcast.
I have a podcast called Maybe It's You.
I like that.
Which is a relationship podcast I do with my wife, where we just talk about. I literally had the podcast so that we could talk. We hadn't talked in a really long time, and I was like, I need an hour of your. I need to talk to you.
See this guy, right?
And then we put the mics down, and suddenly she listened to me. I was like, "There's no other third person here. We're doing this, we were just literally doing it at home when we first started." And then somebody heard it and said, "Oh, we should put this out." So, and I do one about rock documentaries called "Rock Out with Your Doc Out," and Kay, that you know from Boston, who's in Letters to Cleo, is my co-host.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
She's
amazing.
I so admire anything to do with because seeking knowledge.
Yeah.
And I'll be picking your brain about these things.
Yeah, of course.
Anytime. And like you said, and you got retweeted by somebody who has 1 million followers.
Ben Stiller retweeted us today on Instagram. Yeah.
Oh, I just want you to know this. Do you believe in coincidences and synchronicities have meaning in your life?
I do.
You are the second person today. Somebody said that Ben Stiller got behind something they're working on, and you just said his name. And my friend saw an owl. It's the third owl. It's just really weird. I'm on a journey, and I just keep looking. Somebody said there will be guides, and you'll be shown the way you're supposed to go. And I keep going, that was really weird, but it happened. So I'm so glad you decided to come on this show.
Yeah.
And literally, I asked him yesterday. Yes. So I'm so psyched, and
it was great.
Yeah. Hopefully, word will get out there. And thank you, Lee. Next week, I have on Kendall Neal, and he is a young comedian. He's actually an actor trying to be a comedian, and I said to him, usually it's the other way.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
See you out there.